Today was the day that Streamlabs' reputation imploded, and it was completely and utterly their fault. I've never seen anything like this before, where a load of major names and big companies all come out and crap on the same smaller company at the same time, and absolutely destroy them in the court of public opinion, and Streamlabs absolutely deserved it. Now, Twitch is another company that just can't do anything right. Every decision they make is always the wrong one, even when they're coming out with new features. But today, it wasn't their fault. Not exactly. You see, they came out with a new feature for a sort of browser-based streaming program, in combination with Streamlabs. Although the issue was, it turned out that it wasn't just in combination with Streamlabs. No, they turned out they'd stolen a load of other stuff from Lightstream. And Stu here, as the co-founder of Lightstream, came out and called them on it. And he said, look, your work is an exact copy of ours, and I've got a bigger version of it here for you, and boy, is it identical. It's not even just the layout, because all the wording is basically the same, but the biggest, most incriminating evidence of it is down at the bottom, where even the reviews are stolen. Yes, somehow the two reviews for Streamlabs version are exactly the same as the two reviews for Lightstream. Except Streamlabs hasn't even released as a product, so how they've got reviews, I don't know, especially as they seem to be reviews from an entirely different product. Now, Streamlabs did come out and they tried to basically defend themselves, because when you're making a mistake, you just obviously want to double down on it. That's what I always say. They said, we made a mistake. Text on the landing page, it was just placeholder text. It was a production error. We never expected it to go into production and go public. When I would like to say, if you've got a kind of placeholder text on a website, why are you stealing the website of a competitor, especially a competitor that seems to have all the same features you do? If you're going to try and convince your boss or someone else internally, I'm not sure why you're using a competitor's website to do it. And the weirdest part about all this is if we go back to those two reviews, they changed the name of them. Now, these are hypothetical people. If it's just used internally, I don't know why you'd need to change their name at all, because it doesn't change anything about the website. The only reason I can see why you would change those names, if you're trying to change the website enough so you can't be called on it legally. And a lot of what Streamlabs does seems to be, we can get away with that legally. I think it's a horrible way to run business myself, but it's not the first time Streamlabs has done this. You see, you've got here is the Elgato Stream Deck. This is something that's very common among streamers to use to control OBS programs and various different other things. And Streamlabs actually came out with their own version, and this is Elgato calling them on that too. Yes, Streamlabs came out with their own version of the Stream Deck, and you want to know what they called theirs? The Stream Deck. They didn't even bother to change the name. Look, one's a physical hardware device and the other one's on a mobile phone, but come on, at least bother to change the name. But they don't. They steal a feature, they steal a product, and they just put Streamlabs in front of it and call it a day. Why? Well, it's technically different. It's not like you can sue. But Lightstream at least does have a good sense of humor, because they responded in the best way possible to Elgato that I can imagine. And it's this. That, as far as I can tell, is Mr. Bean inside what looks like Grand Theft Auto. I think that's Grove Street, but I could be wrong. But I have never seen a pixelated Mr. Bean before, but I definitely needed it in my life, and that was an instant download for me. And obviously, when you're on this much of a roll, why would you stop there? Because Streamlabs OBS wasn't just confronted by Lightstream and Elgato. Oh no, Streamlabs OBS was actually confronted by none other than OBS themselves. It turns out that Streamlabs OBS just kind of stole the name OBS, even though they didn't really want them to. Yes, OBS is an open source project. Fair enough. Other people can use the software. But Streamlabs, they wanted to get some of that prestige. They wanted some of that name recognition. So they went to OBS and asked them if they could use the name, and OBS said no. So Streamlabs did it anyway and then filed a trademark. Again, it's not illegal. It just makes you feel dirty, as if you need a shower afterwards. And it's very weird to me that someone would go for such reputational damage, that they'd trade so fast and loose with these kind of products. Because yes, you may be getting a load of projected prestige from a program that's well respected like OBS. But when people find out about it, you ruin your own reputation, and you're in the reputation business. Although apparently Streamlabs doesn't care about that, because OBS tried to keep it behind closed doors. They tried to sort it out in private. But Streamlabs didn't care, because why would you care about it in private? In private, they can get away with it. They only cared when it came out. They only cared when it went public, and everybody that heard it was disgusted by it. Because everyone thought that Streamlabs OBS had some kind of relationship with OBS. And you don't have to take it from me. Ammunition comes out, who's a very, very sort of OG streamer, and says, I thought Slobs was a collaborative product. I had no idea they just used the name against your wishes. Because nobody wants to be associated with a company that would steal somebody else's work. And that includes Pokimane. Now, Pokimane has a real reason to be annoyed at Streamlabs, because Pokimane is the face of Streamlabs. She's plastered all over their website. They are using her reputation. They used OBS's name to get her there, and now they're using her name to get that product into other people's hands. All of this is based off reputation, and they're using everyone else's reputation so that they can get other people's products and push them into the hands of others. And when it comes down to it, everyone thinks that they were the ones that created the stuff, because no one knows the smaller companies that they came from. Again, it's all legal. It's just not very nice. And still, the companies kept coming forwards. They wanted to destroy them. Join Combo comes forwards, which seems to be some kind of program which allows you to turn your clips onto other social media. Oh, look! Streamlabs came forward and started talking to them, asking them lots of probing questions about what exactly are you doing? What kind of features have you got? Where do your things just like? Can we have a look? Can we have a look? Can we copy your homework? And then they came out with their own product. What a coincidence. Now, of course, when someone's caught with their hand in the cookie jar, a company's response is very, very predictable. But it's not often you expect someone to nail it 14 hours in advance. Yes, Reversal came out here and he said, I swear if Streamlabs is going to come back with a black background and white text company apology BS on how they messed up, I'm going to be done. And he said that at 4:19 a.m. on November the 17th. And then they came back the same day with a black background, white text going, oh my god, we've made a mistake. We had no idea we were stealing all of these companies' work. We've taken immediate action to remove OBS from our name. Streamlabs OBS is built on top of the OBS open source platform. Streamlabs OBS is also open source and our code is publicly available. We take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility for every unchecked moment.
For every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it was.
And we will support the community. No, they never cared about responsibility when they were taking anyone else's products, but there you go. Now they do, because now they got caught and now they're dropping the OBS name. All they're doing is going back on what they've done when they get caught and the backlash happens. They're not actually providing these people with anything. There's no recompense. There's no recuperation. No, it's just, oh, we're sorry, we won't do that again. I mean, we've already profited a lot from what we've got. We've already profited from the OBS name recognition. We've already confused a load of people, mistaken different brands things. This is why trademarks exist in the first place, just so you can't trade off somebody else's reputation. But, you know, we've already done that for a while and now we've got caught, so now we'll stop. Now we're a big company on our own right. And they are a big company, because as it turns out, they're actually owned by Logitech now. Yes, Logitech bought them in 2019 for $89 million. Something that was built off the reputation of OBS. And the thing is, I really like Logitech. I use a ton of their mice, their keyboards, and all of other stuff. I'm a big fan of their hardware products. It's just a shame they don't run their software companies with the same regard. Look, if this is anything, this should be a lesson to Logitech. When you buy a company, you really need to go through the staff with a fine-tooth comb, because there is somebody there who's making decisions they should not be allowed to make, because they're clearly not responsible enough. They will do anything they think they can get away with and be proud of it right up until the moment they get caught. But of all of the different responses to this, I do like Hassan Arbi's response. I will never use Streamlabs again if they don't immediately resolve this matter. Because if there's one thing Hassan isn't known for, it's taking other people's content and profiting off it. Yes, he certainly wouldn't want to be attached to anything like that at all, would he? But all of this amazed me. The fact that it had never come out before. The fact that when one company goes forward and says, look what this company have done, all these other companies come out in the woodwork and gone, it's been happening to us for years. And we've done nothing to stop them because they kind of dodge around inside the lines of the law. It's just not very nice and everybody despises it when they find out. There are some things that are legal that you just shouldn't do anyway. It's part of human decency. This is why we have reputations to begin with. Because some things are legal that you still don't want to be associated with. And Streamlabs, for me, definitely seems to be one of them. It's a company that I never recommended before because I always thought it was the inferior product to OBS, but it's one that keeps getting recommended to newbies just because apparently it's easier to use. The issue with easier to use is it normally just means cut down features, and every time I've ever had to go tech support for anyone that's used a stream, it's always come down to the fact that it's OBS. And whenever I've gone to them and gone, you can just do this, it's easier. You go, oh, does that work with Streamlabs OBS? No, it doesn't. Because you can't even use add-ons. It cuts out loads of features. It's the clearly inferior product. And yet it's always got popular because it's traded on other people's reputations. So if there's one thing that can come out of this, maybe its reputation will get attached to what it's really like. Maybe its reputation will get attached to just taking features from other people. But let's face it, all of this happened on Twitter. And if there's one thing we know, most people aren't on Twitter. Anybody sane isn't on Twitter. So why all these companies exist on there in the first place is kind of bewildering to me. But that's where they decided to air all of this dirty laundry, and the people that saw it didn't like it. But the people that saw it weren't that many. So what we've got is a story of Streamlabs, which has managed to trade off the reputation of others, make a lot of money, become a major company, get buyout by Logitech, trading on other people's reputations, and they will suffer nothing for it. Because all they've done is quietly dropped the website. They've quietly dropped OBS from their name. But now Streamlabs is big enough that they don't need it. They grew from a small acorn of a company off the OBS brand. Now it's not needed anymore. They lose nothing, they gain everything, and most people will never even hear what's happened. Most people will never know. So the main hope that I have is that the streamers are on Twitter to advertise themselves, to market, to get in contact with brands and stuff. People like Pokimane and Asan, people who have already come out and gone, look, I will stop using your service if it turns out this is true. Actually carry on. Actually follow through on their stated principles and stop using them after all. Because at the end of the day, that seems to be the only possible repercussion of what's happened today. Because honestly, I don't think it'll affect their customer base at all. But for now, that's it from me. If you liked the video, press like and subscribe. More videos in the future, and let me know what you think of Streamlabs, Twitch, OBS, and the drama down below. But for now, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.